Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name's David Dungay. We are back with John Tucker from Intermedia. Welcome to the show, John. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for having me, David.
So, John, today we're going to be talking about service providers, but in particular, how they can really leverage their value offering around Microsoft Teams. But before we get into that conversation, do you want to give us a quick introduction of yourself and Intermedia?
Sure. Yeah, I'm John Tucker, Vice President of Products for Intermedia, focused on our service provider strategy and initiatives. Intermedia, if you haven't heard of us, we're a white label partner first platform provider of a very rich UCaaS and CCaaS portfolio, working with VARs, MSPs, and service providers to take these solutions to market.
So, John, let's start with a few challenges then. Maybe you could outline some of the current challenges your service provider customers are facing today when it comes to offering those Teams-based services, like Operator Connect, for example.
Mhm. Yeah, I think by some distance, the biggest single challenge is differentiation. How do I stand apart as a provider? Microsoft, I think, has done a very good job of delivering, with Operator Connect in particular, very consistent Teams experience for the end customer. But in doing so, what they've done is removed a lot of the room for maneuver as a service provider to bring their own value, their own distinct offerings, really constrained quite tightly into essentially delivering minutes and numbers to the end customer. And today we have more than 30 service providers in the US who are Operator Connect providers. And so as a service provider coming into that space, it's quite tricky to see, how do I avoid just falling into becoming a commoditized product offering, a race to the bottom on pricing, and to build some longer term value in my business rather than short term low margin revenue.
So, well, I'll ask some questions about value and differentiation and avoiding that commodity trap in a
Mm.
moment. But I mean, in terms of selling Teams, we know Teams is widely adopted, huge customer base. But how can providers really think about their approach when it comes to selling Teams? From I guess a more broad perspective.
Yeah, I think the first start point for me is to recognize that very few businesses that have adopted Teams or are in the process of doing so, for very few of them is that the only business communications tool or product that they have in the business. Right? Very often, in fact, in most cases, we're talking to a customer who's got a diverse employee base, may well have through acquisitions or mergers, historic platforms in place. So I think the start point for me is to make sure that we're engaging with our end customer holistically, if you like, looking at their overall business communication requirements and not just coming in with a point solution for one specific element within Teams, because that's a path to get boxed into being a tactical supplier for a limited value. Uh,
Yeah.
I think second thought would be a lot of focus on your market. I think there's a service providers historically very strong connecting with their local customers in the mid market and SMB, and these are customers who are very focused on great user experience, ease of adoption, ease of management, and service management. They're not going to be prepared or able to have staff who are dealing with complex management administration flows. And so really try and make it simplify that journey. And my third thought would be look for opportunities to break out, if you like, of that very constrained environment. One of the things as Intermedia we've focused on is building out what we think is a very unique, very rich PBX, contact center, business archiving feature set within a single pane of glass, but deployed inside the Teams estate, inside that Teams client window. And so by doing so, we're trying to take that approach of saying, how can we break out of, if you like, the constraints that Microsoft places with Operator Connect, such that the service provider can deliver more of their own branded and network delivered value.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this more and more from providers that they value their own brand, or co-branded as well. I'm seeing that in the market as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well let's maybe delve into that a little bit more then. In terms of like key steps forwards that service providers can actually take. I guess the name of the game is a differentiation, but b avoiding that commodity trap that you talk about. What are those steps that service providers can really take?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the classic answer would be as a product manager is try and tackle higher value problems, right? Identify those richer issues that you can distinctly address. And for us, I think that steps up from let's move beyond voice. So as the team's environment is extremely strong when it comes to collaboration for inside the business. I think if we then think about wider SMB PBX requirements, there's an opportunity there for the service provider to deliver a richer PBX mapping and migration journey from legacy on-prem systems. But then I think we can step up into contact center, into customer engagement, customer experience. By addressing those frontline sales workers, customer support experience, employees, and again, try and tackle that contact center experience from within a single pane of glass. And I think finally also, there's an emerging area around business intelligence, business archiving. So one of the areas we've been focusing a lot on is how can we help a business curate and manage and store and then search and run queries against a rich archive of all of their engagement with their customers without having to go to, again, I'm an SMB or a mid-market customer, without having to go to a high-cost CRM or business intelligence platform that bluntly is either too expensive or too complex for a smaller business to try and take on and manage. So as the service provider, how can you bring the value and productivity gain and customer experience benefits of these capabilities down to your customers, and then deliver them within that team's environment that the business has selected, so that you're not requiring an end user to step between different client environments, swivel chair between different platforms in order to complete their workflows.
Yeah, maybe we could touch on maybe the integration aspect of that as well. At the minute, of course, a lot of these things you're talking about can be delivered through third-party integrations, and of course, Intermedia has their own kind of offering on that front as well. But how important are these integrations? I mean, firstly, are all these integrations are they born equal out there? And how can service providers really leverage them to build those custom solutions to I guess create that unique offering?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to say is that we agree there's a really rich ecosystem of point solutions addressing different aspects of the business workflow and communication requirements out there. I think for the service provider, the challenge is how do I weave those together to deliver a consistent experience? It does come back to the fact that we can create, and we do as service providers historically, we've done a great job of weaving together complex solutions. I think sometimes what potentially could sell up front doesn't necessarily get adopted by end users. Usage rates can end up very low. Any single point of friction in a journey for an employee is another reason to not adopt the tool. And as soon as you put two or three of those together, you end up with very low adoption rates. So for us, our approach Intermedia is to knock down as many of those points of friction as we possibly can by integrating directly into our platform. A lot of the high volume, high frequency requirements, call recording or business archiving or transcription, as case in point, and also to identify where we have high value higher value capabilities, stepping into AI with agent and supervisor assistance and so on. That being said, look, if you're going to differentiate, a lot of the way you're going to get there is by addressing vertical needs that are distinct, right? And we don't have the whole solution for that. Certainly, we wouldn't claim to. And so I think as the service provider, you've got to think quite clearly about who's your target customer, what's your proposition going to be to them, what's that one or two distinct integrations that will really add a lot of distinct value and differentiation for your solution, and do a very strong job of integrating those rather than going maybe for more of a smorgasbord, go wide with huge numbers of integrations that maybe don't quite hit the mark for the end user.
Yeah, I mean, so from a technical sort of integration point of view, that's kind of one piece of the puzzle. I think the other piece, sort of side of that, is the support, customer support
Right.
angle as well. Especially getting those adoption levels up. We do see low adoption as well. So how maybe you could talk about how providers can really leverage that customer support angle to create, to really stand out in the market.
Yeah, I think it's essential for these, in a way, bringing these two threads together. I think, first of all, from a go-to-market perspective and a differentiation perspective, if you're going into your customers and you're talking to them about their mid and longer term objectives, their strategy around their business communications estate, how they want to evolve that over time, understanding where they're trying to get to over time, is a more complex engagement on the sales and managed services sort of side, but it has to flow through to your customer support and customer engagement also, because you have to have that common understanding through your business about, we're not here just providing a single point technical solution that needs a trouble ticket raising in a system and a sort of purely tier 2 sort of technical response. We have to engage with our customers on their mid and longer term journey. That helps us differentiate. But I think secondly, without a strong managed services practice and engagement, it comes back to adoption. How much value the customer gets from your solution is not defined by your marketing material or your case studies and what have you. It's defined by their real lived experience day in, day out. And what we see a lot of, particularly I think in the moment where we're seeing very rapid evolution of, Teams capabilities and expectations of what I can do with it, of the contact center and CX environment, of how AI is deployed and leveraged inside businesses, not just to sort of get the sticker attached, but to actually deliver meaningful ROI. I think as a service provider, it's super important that you're engaging with your customer and consulting and advising them on how they can accomplish their real business objectives to drive the adoption, to then mean, when they're now looking next at what do I do next, they come back to you regularly rather than going elsewhere in the market.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and we see this as a media outlet as well. The marketing and the reality don't always match up, shall we say? Which is why it's so important as a customer or a partner, to do that due diligence, to kind of uncover those the reality of the situation, if you like. John, maybe we're coming towards the end of the session today. Let's kind of summarize this for people at home watching. What are your top tips, for these service providers who are going on this journey? They want to future-proof themselves when it comes to their Teams offering. What are your top tips for them?
Yeah, great. I think, first of all, look, if we look at the last 5 years and how fast the change rate has been, I think we'd look ahead to the next 5 years and say it's very hard to predict exactly where you're going to create great new value from and have a really distinctive, compelling business in 5 years' time. So that being said, it's a high change environment. What really matters, I think, one is really dig in, know your customer, really understand what they're trying to accomplish, really develop that deeper engagement and relationship so that you can be, as their needs evolve, you're the partner they're talking to solve them. I think second is really focus on, and that requires building that deeper engagement, managed services and customer support. I think second is look for ways to extend beyond traditional voice services, beyond minutes and numbers. Again, that's going to get further and further commoditized. Look to extend your competence inside your organization and your portfolio into CX, into archiving, into AI capabilities to move up the value stack. And I think finally third is look for a platform provider, a partner that you can engage with who has the right characteristics. So we're going to need to innovate rapidly over the next few years. You do need, as a service provider, we think, to work with a partner who's got a real focus on enablement, really work with you, not just as a technology provider, but to enable you from a marketing, go-to-market, sales, support perspective to really be successful. And finally, also at the end of the day here, why are we even talking about this topic? Is because ultimately, as a service provider, you're trying to identify ways where you can create value for your brand and your business. How do you create long-term value? So make sure you're selecting for partners who support you in that, rather than require you to subvert your efforts and focus and energy into creating value for them rather than you.
John, I think that's a great place to end today's discussion. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing some of your insights.
Oh, my pleasure, David. As always, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you like today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.